joining us to discuss reaction to what happened at the U.S. Open Women's Final is Toni Wiley. She's Executive Director of Sportsmen's Tennis and Enrichment Center in Dorchester. And thank you so much for coming in tonight.
Thank you for the invitation.
On such short notice. So Serena Williams, as the Women's Tennis Association says, calls this disagreement with the umpire sexist. You say that she's not blameless here. So what was your take in watching the whole exchange?
Well, certainly, I think it's good to see a discussion about unintentional bias in the national dialogue in all walks of life. But in this case, as I watched it, that was not my first reaction. My first reaction was that you need to be able to keep control and recognize what's going on around you and what your circumstances are.
You're saying of Serena Williams?
Of Serena. In this case, as I look at the way that we teach our children to be mindful of their own emotions and control themselves in a match, we would have encouraged them to let that go and move on to the next point. And I think that it's unfortunate that so much of the dialogue in the last 2 days has been focused on this controversy instead of Naomi's wonderful win. But as I look at it, there were a number of opportunities that Serena had to take this in an entirely different direction.
Speaking of the first violation,
yes.
She gets the violation for the coach who's coaching her from the stands. I've heard several former pros and current pros say today that all the coaches coach from the stands. Should the umpire have given her that initial violation, even if it was within the rules? It was within the rules to call that violation, but should he have done that?
I suspect there are shades of gray that none of us are aware of. We don't sit in that chair. I think if there's a question of whether or not there was a secret symbol being passed back and forth, and there's the question of whether or not the player saw it, perhaps even the chair umpire didn't see it. But this was very blatant. It was very kind of flagrant. And so I think for any of us to discuss whether or not he should have issued the violation when the violation did occur, I'm not sure we're in a position to do that.
So then Serena broke a racket, which is automatic. Right?
Exactly.
If you do that, it's all over. That's your second
violation. And it's important to note that had she not done that, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right. That really was
that's the bottom line.
Situation.
Right.
So that then by the time you go to the third incident where she kept approaching him and yelling at him, talk through how how you interpreted that in terms of tennis and the rules.
Well, her focus was on the fact that she lost a point. She lost a point in the game that had already ended. So again, our coaches would tell our kids, that game is over, you can't get it back. That point is over, you can't get it back. Her focus was on the fact that she went and told the chair umpire, I don't cheat, I didn't see the hand signals, so therefore you can't give me a code violation. And that's not the case. We have to respect the role that the chair umpire plays and recognize that despite her disagreement, the point stands, the code violation stands.
Right.
So then you have to be aware that now you have a second one.
Foul in basketball.
Correct. As I said, if you've gotten a technical foul already, it's on you to remember that if you don't stop now, you're going to get ejected from the game. It's not up to the umpire to say, if you don't stop, I'm going to eject you, because you already know the rule.
So she gets the first code violation, then she gets the second. She knows that if she gets the third, that she loses a game.
Correct.
Which, of course, effectively ended the match. Is there some onus on the umpire in that moment, knowing the stage, knowing it's the U.S. Open, to practice some restraint himself and not give her the third violation for calling him a thief? We've seen other players say much worse to umpires before. They've sworn at umpires. She didn't curse. Should he have practiced restraint there? And do you see some sort of double standard here? Because that's been the term that's been used a lot today.
Well, first of all, if you've seen Serena come back from a 5-1 deficit, you know that that game did not cost her the match. She has done it before. She could have come back. Yes, it costed her a game, but Naomi played a wonderful match, and that's what costed her the match.
Yeah.
Whether or not the official should have decided to give her another warning or to remind her that she was on the brink of a third code violation, again, I think it's hard for us to second guess what was going on in that dialogue. There was a lot of time that passed between the changeover and all the dialogue about her yelling that he owed her an apology and that he needed to announce to the crowd that she was not cheating. He never actually called her a cheater. So could he have? Certainly. When you get pulled over for speeding, could you get a warning instead of a ticket? Yes. But the reality is, if the rule is on the books and that's the rule that got enforced, I don't think we're in a position to second guess whether or not the chair umpire should have given her a warning or the actual violation.
One last question quickly. In her in her press conference after the match, she said, well, you know, whatever happened, I'm going to keep fighting for women. And clearly the Women's Tennis Association is backing her up, seeing this as sexist. Do you think this, how do you think this affects women in the game at this point?
Well, I think her coach made a very valid point that she's a passionate player and her passion shows itself in many ways. So whether or not she uses her platform to approach the ITF about softening the rules around what happens when a player demonstrates their feelings by breaking their racket, or whether or not they should eliminate the code violation for coaching because it's impossible for the chair umpire to see it all the time.
Right.
Whether she uses her platform to have that dialogue is a separate discussion. And certainly if the WTA wants to back that, I think that's wonderful. But in the moment that you're playing the match, you're playing under the rules as they exist at that time.
Toni Wiley of the Sportsmen's Tennis and Enrichment Center in Dorchester, which, by the way, if you get a chance to check it out, fantastic organization. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thanks. And Eric, what